The Lincoln's Legends podcast is proudly brought to you by MilesT-shirts.com. Top-notch printing at a great price. Now entering the Lincoln's Legends podcast. This is my first time here. Do you want to tell everybody where we are?
We're at William Van's Coffee House, which is a place that I never thought we'd have in Springfield, Illinois. It's like super cool.
Absolutely. It's have you ever been to Nashville by any chance?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been to Cafe Coco?
No.
Oh, there's a house that's nothing like this. This is like a 100-year-old house, which is awesome.
Right.
But there's a house there that is a coffee shop that's ran by a group of people that's independent, not corporately owned. And it's open every single day of the year. It's very close to the campus. Kids just go there and hang out. I have no idea.
Vanderbilt. That's why I was in Tennessee. I was thinking about getting my doctorate degree at Vanderbilt University. Well, and I was going to say it like that for the rest of my life.
I don't blame you. Deshawnee Miner introduced me to Nashville. I've been there a handful of times. Love it. But this place reminds me of Cafe Coco. Even upstairs they have a recording studio.
Of course,
so it's all
Nashville.
Yeah, and it's crazy because people are always super nice. And, you know, Anyway, I'll tell you what, let's start with the introductions. I am speaking with Kelly Mocha Momma Wickham, which I'm super excited to have as
Wickham.
a guest. I'm sorry, I messed up your name.
It's okay.
Wickham.
Everyone does.
I apologize.
That's how I know when a telemarketer calls.
Touche. Well, I'm not going to ask for your social security number or, your bank statements.
Okay.
This is huge for me because I've told you before that you're an inspiration. Honestly, I would call you a heroine, like a super heroine, because of the things that you can do with your voice. You tell people how you feel, and you also put it into text form. And once it goes into text form, it takes on a life of its own. And
it's a good time to be alive.
Kids, just for funsies, I'll tell you that if you don't know who she is, I added her on the Lincoln's Legends Twitter account today. By herself, she has over 10,000 Twitter followers, and those aren't bots; those are real people.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let you have the floor. Whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about. I got a handful of questions I'll ask you, but yeah, absolutely.
So how about I talk about what I do?
That would be awesome.
How I make my ducats. That's money for you kids. I don't know where that came from, by the way. So this is going to be a super fun interview because my brain's going to be everywhere, and you are having some serious coffee, which, of course, is where my name came from. So Mocha Momma is a name I got from a friend of mine several years ago.
Do the plugs. Get out all your social networking sites because I want them to.
KellyWickham.com.
There you go.
I have my name. I've got my own blog there, and I used to write for a couple of other places, but I've been syndicated elsewhere. And Twitter is @MochaMomma. And Facebook is where the magic happens. Facebook is my dog, man. Like, that's where everything goes down.
As you said, it's an extremely exciting time because we have a platform to say whatever we want to say. Right. Now, there is often social responsibility for different people in different roles, but one of the things that I so admire about you is because you're brutally honest, and people need that. They really do. I think
my friend Meredith just asked me a question about that,
please.
Like this whole honesty thing, and saying what you want to say. And she just recently said to me last week, "How do you come up with your opinion so fast? How do you?" Which is a weird question. I had to actually think about it. I've never been asked that. What do you mean? How do I come? Everyone has an opinion.
Absolutely.
I think that over time, what happened to me is I had a very, very small, tiny little world. And so my opinion to me didn't mean anything. And then I started expanding and working with kids and writing online and meeting people across the world. And now I'm at the point where I go, I think I can see what I need to see like that.
From my perspective, you are one of the only people that I know personally that live in a multiverse. And some people might not understand that, but you can walk into a room, into a door, and all of a sudden your role changes, your title changes, your outlook changes because you've had so many life experiences.
Right.
And you can go to your job from the 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever it is that you're doing inside that world, and then you walk into another world and you're somebody's mom, and then you walk into another world and you're a blogger, and then you walk into another world. And I don't think the word is used enough, but I definitely think that would describe your perspective as you live in a multiverse and you experience different you have different experiences in every one, and if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you build and learn off of all those experiences, and kind of that's how you get your perspective?
Yes, and so I'm a middle child, which to me brings a lot to it because I'm all about equity. So that's why I think I come up with an opinion really, really quickly. That's not fair. My older sister is 14 months older than I am. Just enough that when she got to do things before I did, I was like, that's not fair. We've been kind of the same this whole time. When I was 8 and she was 9, we did the same things. And then, she was 13 and she could go skating on Saturday and I couldn't.
I don't know if we've talked about this. I'm not trying to one-up you, but this is actual fact. My brother and I are Irish twins. So we are the same age on the bubble. So I can definitely relate. The things that he did, I wanted to do. The things that some of the things that I saw him do,
Wait,
I didn't
are you
do.
Older?
No.
You're the younger.
I am.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
I'm the middle child, yes.
So sometimes that works at work too, because my job is to make sure everything is fair.
There you go.
And when you talk about going into these like multiverses, sometimes my title walks in before I do. The assistant principal is here, or she's coming, or even when I was a teacher and I would go to my own kids' parent-teacher conferences, this mom is also a teacher, and so that title walks in the door. Sometimes blogger as a title walks in the door. Sometimes those numbers, those Twitter numbers, walk in the door first. And I know people are really interested in it, like, how do you get 10,000 followers? How do you do that? I was
without buying them, by the way. Without buying them.
I don't care. You don't like my opinion, you click the unfollow button. I am okay. It doesn't
And
hurt
she
my
didn't
feelings.
sit at home on a Sunday in some PJs eating Haagen-Dazs, clicking follow. The followers outweigh the ones that follow you way outweigh the ones that you follow. It's
right.
That never happens. It's always I follow 10,000 people so I can get 12,000 people to follow me, but without giving incorrect numbers, I really think you're at like 3,000 that you only care about, and then there's like more than 10K coming in. So that's huge influence.
Right, which is 3,000 still a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Still a lot.
Absolutely.
And I would like to pare that down because I know that there's some people that I'm like not interested in what you're really talking about.
The thing that I can't grasp, I've lived here almost 30 years, you would theoretically say there's 100,000 people that live in Springfield or more. At some point in time, you can interact in 30 years with 10% of the population. I don't know 10,000 people. I don't.
I do.
So you have that.
I do. And let me just tell you how I know that, because one day I was trying to add them up, and I was thinking to myself, all right, I've had 120 kids a year, and in X number of years of teaching. Now, that's 120 kids plus their parents, but sometimes the step-parents came to parent-teacher conferences, so that's 5 in one family. And I started adding up, and after I got to 10,000, I quit.
We're
done.
done.
I'm like, nope, I'm done. I don't know. And so, with that said, I am no longer allowed to go to the grocery store with anyone in my family because I know everyone, and because my former students work there, or they're bagging my groceries, or a parent is there, or a student is there, and so I can't go anymore. I can't go. That's why I picked William Vance, because no one will know me here. I'll be real surprised if someone comes on and says,
I'm really happy that we are here. One of the reasons behind the show is because I hear people complain a lot when I'm out and about, there's nothing to do, and there's nothing to do. And for me, there's always something to do, you just don't know where it is.
Right, but here's the really interesting part for me. I said the same thing for years and years, and I do believe as a town, Springfield can be a little xenophobic, doesn't like their outsiders, and once I got in the online world, my world expanded, but then it contracted then again, because I met people on Twitter, and I was like, oh, look at all these really interesting people in this town, and look at all the great things you can do with these interesting people. So I needed the internet to open my world, and then
you close it back.
Focus.
You compartmentalize. You're like, I need this person. I like their views. We get along. Let's be friends with them. We don't have to experience all of it.
Right. But I will say this: of all the people that I have unfollowed or unfriended on social media, they have all been from Springfield. Every one of them.
We have a fun, I think it's a fun segment called the Lincoln's Losers section, where you get to bash whoever that you feel, but we'll get there, all right? I've got, I know, it may be half the show, and that's fine. I'm okay with it.
I'm glad we're not having beer, we're just having coffee. I'm going to watch myself.
You know what? We had beer on the first podcast at a beer garden, and I'm a little disappointed now, because that was Saturday, and it was 75 degrees, and it's Halloween is tomorrow, and it's fall today.
Yeah, I know.
It's like I'm wearing a jacket, I'm wearing long
And
sleeves.
then winter will be Sunday.
Oh yeah,
It's coming.
Game of Thrones reference. Winter is coming.
That was totally.
Is it?
Thanks for bringing that up. I'm gonna throw some out. See if you guys can pick up on them. There will be a prize at the end. Your first question is, how many fibers are in a shredded wheat biscuit? Just kidding.
No.
Just kidding. That's actually a reference that you may not know.
I don't know.
De La Soul.
Touche.
De La Soul's album that I got when I was in college. At the end of the album, they asked these impossible questions like that, and how many times did the Batmobile catch a flat?
Oh,
and, how many feathers on a Purdue chicken? And I still, it's been 25 years, I still say that stuff.
That's because it has weight.
I know.
It really does. It'll take you a long time. I don't know.
Stops you in your tracks.
It does. I've watched many Batman film time and time again, not the seasons with Adam West, and I've never heard of Batman getting a flat.
Right.
So that's awesome.
It had to have happened though.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll Google that later. You Google that, kids.
Let's see. Put
your answer in the comments.
What's something that you are super excited about, either that just happened or is on the bubble and is on your agenda?
Two things. One, I'm super excited about having just come back from DC with the One Foundation, which is was started by Bono.
Are you allowed to comment on the One Foundation?
I am allowed.
Is that the
to
name
comment.
of it? The one? I thought you were just like blanket statement.
O-N-E.
Okay, I thought it was blanket statement as that one place or that
The
one. Okay.
The One Foundation.
By the Bono that put his song on my iPhone that I didn't ask
that
for.
You didn't ask for. I would apologize for him, but I'm
It's all right. It's all right. So tell me about the One Foundation.
The One Foundation is a place that it never asks for money. It only asks for your voice, and it's a very I think it's totally fitting with our generation and what people can do. And we're always about change.org petitions. We're all about getting online and speaking our voice, which is really what we're talking about.
Right.
So they fight two things: preventable diseases in lots of other countries other than ours, and extreme poverty. And so a lot of the things that they're working with is organizations like Fashionable, which is a place that takes women off the streets as sex workers in Ethiopia, and it teaches them a trade, and they make these beautiful scarves.
Yes.
And when I went to Ethiopia in 2012 with the foundation, they took us to the factory, and we got to meet these women. And of course, all of the women that were there, all of us combined had a collective voice of 25 million.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
They told us that fact, and we all knew each other. Many of us knew each other. And some of us were brand new friends, and we thought, wow, so we've got some power here. What can we do with it?
Yeah.
So we go to this factory, and of course we walk in and we go, I want to buy all the scarves.
Everything.
I want to buy everything you have, because if this is what's helping to get a woman off the streets and giving her a trade, and she can keep her family. Here's what's great about it. Every scarf you buy comes with a personalized tag that says, because of you, I am able, and then they fill in the blank. Because of you, I am able to send my child to school.
That is powerful.
Right. So what happened was, we all used our collective platforms.
Yeah.
I used Instagram. I put a scarf on. I'm like, hey friends, everyone's getting this for Christmas.
Right.
And the company sold out.
That's awesome.
And the next day, Barrett Ward, who ran it, talked to the people at One and said, what did you do?
Wow.
What did you ladies do?
That's amazing.
And we were like, whatever. He told us that the next day they had to hire 4 more women. And if I can use my voice to take 4 women off the street in a really simple way,
absolutely,
then I'm going to do that. Which is, to me, that's the power of
that
voice.
That blows my mind. How do we say? I can't relate to anyone that's been born in a third world country. I have gone through what I would call the free lunch poverty system of the public schools, but I still was born winning the lottery.
Right.
Because
our poor and their poor are very different.
Without being racist, I was born white. Right. I didn't have to get harassed by anybody.
You got white privilege, man. It's okay. Own it.
I just have to preface, I was born without getting harassed. We had shoes. The government gave us, lunch if we didn't have it.
Right.
Those people live in huts. It would make me physically sick to my stomach to think that I'm bringing a kid into the world and having to deal with that. Like, how would you survive, number one? And number two, it blows my mind. There's no words I can say. Absolutely.
In developing countries is very different. But it also makes you really grateful, and you say, okay, seriously, I'm angry about this. This is the thing that's upsetting me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they would love to have my problems.
I couldn't get free screening tickets to Dumb and Dumber 2 because the hyperlink broke.
Right.
My life is over.
Right.
Is it?
Everything sucks. My MacBook is broken. Which I know it is a problem, but it's not as big a problem as we might think it is.
It's not.
But that's the first thing I'm excited about. The second thing I'm excited about is working on the Tuxedo Men.
Yes, please tell me. The last time we talked, you had awesome pictures of these gentlemen in tuxedos that I don't want to say mafia because I don't want to give them that connotation or the negative aspect.
No.
But just and I can't say gentleman's club because that makes you think a strip club, but just some old dudes that are hanging out that have a positive message. And I'm going to let you talk about it because I got nothing.
Okay. So back in January, so almost a year ago, back in January, I went to a restaurant here in Springfield that I didn't necessarily need to dress up for. I could have if we were going on a date. So I see these two black gentlemen come towards me in tuxedos, and I just am friendly, and I talk to everybody. So I talked to him and said, "Hey, what are you celebrating tonight?" And he said, this older gentleman said to me, "Nothing, we just have dinner." I said, "What are you, just having dinner
Just
in a
having
tuxedo?"
dinner, yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah, we're just having dinner in a tuxedo." And I looked at my girlfriend across the table, and I'm like, there is a story there. There is something going on. So on our way out of the restaurant, we see like a dozen of them in the back room, all black men, all wearing tuxedos, having dinner. So I use my sleuthing skills to get what I want, which really just equates to go to Facebook. It has all the answers.
Did you post a picture and say, have you seen these people, or you posted?
I didn't post a picture. I didn't have a picture. I asked a question. Hey, does anybody know about all these black men in town who get together and have dinner?
You reached out to the 10,000 or so people that I know a guy knows a guy. Get taken care of.
Somebody had to know something within 30 minutes.
Awesome.
Edie, a friend of mine, commented, and she said that's the East St. Louis Anniversary Club, and my father was a member, and my ex-husband is a member, and I can tell you everything you need to know about it. So she talks to me. I find one of the members who I've known for years, and who has never ever said anything to me.
Yeah, but how would it come up? Oh, by the way, there's these guys that have tuxedos.
Exactly. Why would it come up? And here's why I'm excited, because that's not the narrative in the United States that we care about. We care about the black man's narrative when they're being shot by the Ferguson police.
I agree.
We care about the black man's narrative when he's down on his luck and he's not doing well, and that's the one that we continue to perpetuate.
It's always behind the music. It's never,
right. And I'm interested in this particular narrative because these men are the backbone of this particular town in which we live, and their towns where they live, because they're from all over, and we don't get to hear that story.
Right.
I want to hear that story, and they have great stories. So I'm in the process of writing a book about them, and hopefully getting a film produced about them, because I think it would make a great documentary.
You got to figure out who is putting the documentaries on Netflix, because I feel that it is a new form of media to where you can work on a shoestring budget and say, I want to make this documentary, because they can't have the problems that the studios have. I mean, it's I don't want to say
Netflix
independent.
Is doing it right.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to say it's independent, but there's got to be somebody that made a documentary that I mean, it's all professionally done, but that might be something to look into. Is if you've got one that you enjoy, say, okay, here's the director. Just send him an email saying, would you like to do this project?
So you think shooting for Spike Lee might be too big? Come on, Spike would love it.
There's no glass ceiling with you, so
None.
I'm never going to say that Spike Lee is too big, but if you can get to him, if you had a conversation with him, I'm sure it would happen. That's what I'll say.
I have a friend who lives in New York. My friend Isabel. She keeps joking with me, you just write the script and I'm just going to stick it under his door.
Then that's how it happens.
So great. We'll just dig this podcast
That's
up
fine.
after the documentary.
I'm hoping that this is going to be the first of many, because you always have stuff going on. So we've got part 1, part 2, part 3, but this one I wanted to make it the first one because I feel, and I'm going to piss some people off, but you're probably the most influential person that I'm friends with that uses their voice in a positive manner. I mean, everybody else is, the Cardinals lost, or my car is broken, or I've got this. There aren't many people that and I'm sorry if I'm throwing it under the bus, but strong educational minds that are pushing forward positive information.
I'm trying to get out social information.
Absolutely.
And social good.
Yeah.
And things we need to pay attention to. And so, because we're Facebook friends, that I say this a lot. Watch the narrative.
Absolutely.
Watch the narrative. Yesterday's thing that I happened to post about the woman that walked around New York City for 10 hours and got street harassed, but then they happened to just cut out all of the white men that harassed her, so it made it look like all black and brown men
Which,
were
that thing
her.
sucks, because since we live in the 24-hour... Well, I'll say this, okay? It sucks that they cut out all the white guys, but since we live in the 24-hour news cycle, people are grabbing what's going to get the attention.
Right.
And thankfully...
They could have grabbed the attention with the white guys.
They could have, but thankfully that we live in the digital age where we can get both sides of the story, because we're able to watch that. Now, I wrote a paper a couple years ago about how all 5 companies are all related. They all give the same the same narrative on everything that happens.
Right.
And my fiance turned me on to the idea. She had a media book, and it blew my mind. So that's why I don't watch popular news anymore.
Yeah.
I read both sides, like you're saying, because it started with a Conan O'Brien same-sex marriage joke. And literally, CBS took that joke, and they went to all of their affiliates, and it was like a house of cards. It just, every single company had the same soundbite from the top down, where they're all, well, I guess the gays are going to get married.
Right.
And it's just, it stinks, but I hate...
Which is why we all need to have our voice.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody, and here's the thing, I'm not affecting the news cycle. I know that there is some influence that happens there, and
yes.
I do hear from a lot of people who say, I don't know where you find the things that you share.
But thank you.
Yeah. Or I don't know if we would know about this story if you didn't say something, which I think that's the power of what we do in media.
I agree.
And I think we all stumbled upon this accidentally. I didn't.
Oh, sure.
I did not go into this. I didn't start writing a blog because I wanted to have some social media influence over anybody.
Do you feel that you are driven by the passion inside to constantly search for the truth, or do you feel that at some point there is a responsibility to the audience that you have to keep putting out fresh material?
Now I feel the responsibility. I used to feel like I just wanted to put the
This is an
out.
awesome story. I loved reading it. I want other people to read it. Here you go. Now, I don't know where the
for me,
the scale kind of tipped.
For me, because one of the things I talk about a lot is race.
Yes.
I talk about the isms, right?
Yes.
Racism,
Yes.
sexism, classism. Those are stories that were important to me anyway. And I often wondered, are they important to anyone else? Does anyone else see this story the same way I'm seeing this story? And there's a downside to that, right? The
yes.
downside is that I get Kelly, you only ever talk about race. You only ever talk about, you only ever show these things. But here's the thing. In the 24-hour news cycle we live in, I'm reading news that a lot of people weren't reading.
For me, it's worth it if you were to get complaints, because yours is that little bit of light that's in the whole cloud of mess, where you're just saying, this is the issue that I'm focusing on, while everyone else is reading about Kim Kardashian and Bruce Jenner and the athletes that are crashing their cars from DUIs.
Dude, listen, today on Gawker, while I was going through some news stories, there is an open thread on who really killed John Benet Ramsey. Are you kidding me? Are you this is still part of what we're discussing with all the important things out there in the world.
Oh, God.
I saw her name on the news cycle today.
Would she be like 30 by now?
I'm guessing. Yes, she'd be your age.
There you go.
Absolutely.
I don't even think they talked about the Lindbergh baby that long. Right?
They didn't have Twitter back then.
There you go. There you go. Let's see. I think it's time to move on to the Lincoln's Losers part. This is the part where I always preface by saying, if there's a dog, your neighbor's dog barks too loud, or poops in your yard, and the neighbors never clean it up, or somebody that just really gets under your skin, like you know what? I'm sorry, but I'm airing all my dirty laundry. You need to stop this, or stop talking about this. The floor is open, and it's an internet show, so there's no censorship. You can talk about it whatever you want, but it's got to be local.
I want to talk about politicians, and then they're probably going to audit my taxes. Which, by the way, has already happened. I got a letter one time in the mail from some local politician, and I took out my red pen, and I corrected all of the errors on there, and I sent it back.
I keep double copies of my receipts, by the way.
Well done. You're supposed to. I don't do that. There's a faction here in Springfield. Springfield is really bizarre for me.
Yes.
Where I work, and I've been in 5 schools in this district.
Now, people are going to... I have to pause for just a second.
Yeah.
Because I want to give people the best perspective that I can.
Okay.
You have not stated race on the podcast. So I want to make sure that people know from your perspective you're doing this as a strong...
Black woman.
There you go. Because people
I should have said black man just to throw them, but I think they can tell. I have a deep voice. But no.
It puts the lotion on its skin.
But yeah, I just want to give them the ultimate perspective because you're going to go on this amazing story, and I want them to know who's riding in the car.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I'm riding in the car. I'm driving it.
There you go.
So I've been in 5 different schools, and I wish I could say that the issues of race are just special to one place, but it's really not. Springfield is where the NAACP got its start after the riots.
You know what is, man, I don't want to
about
cut you off, but
Reconciliation Day?
yes, literally the reason why it's, oh my God, I can't, if people don't know this about Springfield, then you need to pick up a history book, but we are the reason why the NAACP started because of hangings, and it's...
And here's the thing, at the time, in 1908, there were a lot of race riots. There were a lot of riots in towns,
yeah.
but the one that happened here spurred...
People never talk about that, and I have no problem.
No, but we go ahead and we slap up a sign on 11th Street talking about where reconciliation way.
Oh
says
my
who?
God!
Since when?
Yeah.
Have we reconciled? Have we talked about it? We still don't really talk about race the way we're supposed to talk about race.
No, absolutely.
Not in this town.
No.
And so, if I'm mad at somebody, I'll give you a great example. I found out that the Lincoln Colored Home was across the street from my current building.
Okay.
I found that fascinating.
Yes.
I talked to people and said, do you know what the Lincoln Colored Home is? No, what's that? Okay, it's a orphanage started by Eva Carroll Monroe. And they took in only black boys, mostly, because prior to that, orphanages were just white. And what they did with the black children was they sent them to prisons. They sent them to juvenile centers.
Well, that's the whole thing with the...
that's where our prison industrial complex
Slavery ended on paper.
Right.
But then if you didn't have a job, you had to go to work.
Right.
And if you couldn't go to work, you went to jail, and then you worked to pay off. So that's basically another
We still
bonus.
have overseers.
Yeah.
They just work in prisons.
That's okay. So
they work on the street as police officers sometimes, right?
It is what it is.
I'm just going to call
No,
it.
that's fine.
And look, it's not like there's not data to back that up.
No, absolutely.
It's not like we don't have enough stories. It's not like we're 90 miles away from Ferguson, Missouri.
Nope.
Where this
that
is
was on the radar.
happening.
Of course, it was on the list. So
Ferguson?
Absolutely.
We can go there. Wait, let me get this thought out.
We got all kinds of time.
So when I started working on the Lincoln Colored Home,
yes,
we did a Wikipedia page for it because there was no Wikipedia page.
Oh my God!
I got a hold of Lee Hubbard, who owns the home, whose father owned it, who wants to do something with it and talk about a historical aspect.
Absolutely.
But you know what? We're right down the street from Lincoln's actual home, and someone here really doesn't want us taking away that particular part of history. So all of a sudden, when I gave it some internet juice a little bit, they were slapped with fines.
There's another Netflix documentary for you. So we've got one. We've got one about the tuxedo men.
Yeah.
We've got one about the orphanage.
Yep.
So
it should happen. Eva Carroll Monroe was an amazing woman.
Yeah, I'm just asking. We're gonna date it. I just want to be a footnote, like on the insert of the DVD.
No.
Just
thanks,
roll it on.
Bailey.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about Ferguson, and let's talk about all the quiet things that are going on. So let me just state again: today's the day before Halloween.
Yes.
And elections are next week.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of hush-hush going on about Ferguson. And I think if you paid any kind of attention to some of the people on Twitter who are following the story, who have been since the beginning, you'll know that there are some facts that are undisputed about the incident. But you also know that there's a lot of cover-up that's happening.
And I have to point that out. If someone were to follow your Twitter feed, you know people that are there right now.
Correct.
And that is what's so amazing about living in the information age, because you can turn on KMOV or whatever their affiliate is, and they're going to say all this S is going down. I don't know why you didn't say shit. I'm sorry. I gotta get it out. So all this shit's going down, they're wreaking havoc, and it's all this particular group's fault. But then there's some girl sending you Instagram and Twitter photos and blogs saying, oh, by the way, these people were violent.
This is what's going on.
Yeah.
There are peaceful protests.
Absolutely.
These people are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing in a protest. This is what exactly happened during civil rights. And this is our civil rights, Jeremy. I'm telling you right now.
Absolutely.
This is it. And I have friends in St. Louis who have said to me, you would not believe the number of people getting off trains right now in military garb. You would not believe the amount of things that are coming into St. Louis, and we're all terrified that it's just about to blow, like it's a powder keg. But here's the other side. I have people telling me, now I'm going to tell you something, but this is not public information. There's a lot.
How can they do that though? They can just say, can't you say I have a credible source? I won't reveal that source, but here's the shit that's going down.
Yeah.
Because people need to hear it.
But here's the thing. The police have needed time to get their story together. Look how long it took them to get their story together in the first place. Look at how this boy's body laid in the street for 4 hours without anything being done because they were so busy cleaning up their messes. So guess what? If you happen to, 2 weeks after this election, if the police happen to come out and say, here's something that I've heard, there's actually some of Michael Brown's blood in the police car, which means that there was a struggle in the police car, right?
Yeah.
If you tell people that in November for something that happened back in the summertime, we're all going to view it as a conspiracy. Nobody's going to believe it. Why weren't you just transparent in the first place? Why didn't you just come out and tell us? Why didn't you pick up that child's body? Why wasn't there? But here's the thing. We're so busy trying to protect that one police officer. I mean, if you were a police officer there, how pissed would you be that, wait a minute, we're about to all go into battle because you guys don't want to give this one up? This one man? You don't want to say that he might have made some mistakes, maybe not all, but at least some mistakes. You can't even admit that. So you're willing to go to war, and this is going to be a war. And I don't just mean that in the physical sense. No. I understand. I understand completely. Sense. I'm just happy. Sorry, I keep playing with the levels for you guys who are listening, but we're both very passionate people, and I don't want it to pop. Oh, so Prince is playing in the background. So it is. I'm stuttering because I'm very passionate, just the same as you, but you articulate better than I do. You've got a lot of practice. Yeah. It's never a good idea to go to war, and I'm not promoting war, but I am very happy that we live in the information age that we do. Therefore, everything that happens is going to be documented by bystanders. That way people can make their own decisions, and if whatever party, because I'm not in the position that you are with all this inside information, whatever party messed up, they need to pay the consequences, and that information needs to be, I don't want to say leaked, but it needs to be shared with everyone. And it's awesome that we have access to documenting this, because I hate to say, the joke about Miss Cleo, the cards don't lie, go back to the videotape. Yeah, go back to the videotape. You can't dispute videotape. If shit got weird and somebody, broke protocol, or the kid just got out of hand, whatever happened, people have that information that we get to see. It's not like right now they're putting in tabloids because they got nothing else to write about how Jackie Kennedy signed an NDA to Jack Kennedy's dad, saying that she knew he was sleeping around, but if his dad gave her $1 million, she'd stay. If he came home with the herpes, then she'd get $2 million. That's in the tabloids right now? Yeah, I have got to literally. But nobody knew about it because it happened in the '60s. Nobody had Twitter and Instagram like we do now. You can't hide that stuff. Right. I'm not saying that I give an S about what happened, but it took 20 years to hear about that. And if there's events that are going to cause us to go to war to create an equilibrium, I'm not happy that there's going to be a war, but I'm happy that we live in the age where we can see the truth, and it's not hidden from us. And if there are sides that are divided, then it's going to be a lot easier to make your decision personally on which side that you're on, because you see the truth crystal clear rather than have it regurgitated to you by the same 5 news stations that got it from one guy whose editor says, meh, I'm not sure that you can put that word in there. There's no filter for the internet, and I'm excited about it. We still do that when we talk about Trayvon Martin. I wrote an article several years ago, and I had my editor of the publication say, you can't say he was murdered. All right. Let me just pause there because I'm just still what a ridiculous sentence. We have all the time in the world. He's murdered. We have to say that he was killed. He died by this. Like, she was editing what I was saying about something that was an absolute truth. Okay, so Tupac gets shot in a car. He's murdered. Right. Trayvon Martin gets shot in a fight. He died by a gun. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we thugify him, right? So we do this thing where we build a case, and we say, this is why this particular person deserved it. We continue to do that. Or what we do is you have people who are turning around and saying, yeah, but let's talk about black on black crime. Okay, you can do that if you want to, but then you're centering yourself in this.
Absolutely.
And changing the focus of what we're actually talking about. And so I think I've gotten to the point, and this is why I'm even more passionate today, I've gotten to the point where I go, nope, we're going to stick on topic here, okay? Stop putting yourself here. This is not about your hurt feelings or what you think might happen. Could we actually talk about some things that are truth? And how come when we talk about truth in our, I'm putting air quotes, this is my air quotes, post-racial America.
Yes.
How come when we do that, the person who's on the negative end of that is always a black person?
I agree, and I think that there is a lot of misrepresentation as far as the Fox News shows, because there are people that are getting paid crazy amounts of money to say whatever the teleprompter gives them, and they're too scared of the money.
Scared of losing the money.
This isn't. I don't have a reference to Fox News, but for this podcast, I was talking to a sponsor, and the truth came out. They didn't like the truth. They decided not to sponsor. So I feel, without tooting my own horn, that this will be a somewhat success, because, like, you know what? I would love to sponsor you, but I can't put my name next to the things that are being said. But thankfully, we live in a world where it doesn't cost that much to get your information out. Right. So I've lost a sponsor because of truth already, and the show hasn't even started yet. So
some people might call that a success.
That's what I'm saying. Just a little, a little bit.
You know what? Here's what it really is. It's really about living out the courage of your convictions. Do you want to say what the truth is, or do you want people to think that what you're saying is the truth? Or do you want to be perceived in one way, but actually keep your true feelings to yourself and keep the truth to yourself? Which is it? Like, you're either going to do it or you're not, and people are either going to believe you or not. I think that's what has made Jon Stewart so.
Love Jon Stewart. I do.
Don't we? If there was an altar, we could have an altar of him. I think that's what makes him so fantastic, is that he says a lot of the things that a lot of people were like, we totally agree with that.
It's almost as if you should have classes that watch the show, debate it, what's going on in the news, what did you learn today?
Right.
And I feel that you can learn way more from The Daily Show when they're cracking jokes, because there is truth in the comedy.
Right. And I don't think that half of the people who watched that, like, I wasn't, my radar was not on the Koch brothers before Jon Stewart.
Wow, yes, absolutely.
And now he's got everybody's eyes turned to, who are these people? Who
Absolutely.
are these men? What exactly are they involved in? Did you see him troll them this week, by the way?
I did not.
Oh,
no,
he found out that the Koch brothers are running advertisements during the Daily Show.
Are you serious?
And he played the commercial, and then he fixed it. He trolled them.
Oh, that is amazing. That is awesome. I think we all strive to have that kind of platform, because he lets you have it. I've been listening to, they have a podcast that's The Daily Show without Jon Stewart. It's only like 5 or 6 episodes old, but it's really nice to hear how the people go through their field interviews. And honestly, I would probably be scared to death to walk into a place that I didn't know, talk to somebody, and you're condescending with everything that you're saying. You just have to figure out if they're picking up on it or not. And from what I understand, with the first episodes, when they did that, they only had one camera for the whole thing. So they had to get the person on camera, answering the questions that they asked. Then in the same room, they flipped the camera on themselves, read the questions over. The person would make that mental connection and realize they were getting played, and then all hell would break loose.
Oh, see, I would never. I don't know if I'd be interviewed. I don't know. I don't have anything to hide.
I don't either.
I'm living my life out loud. If The Daily Show, you guys are listening, Jon Stewart, if you're out there, I'm ready.
They did say one of the first person to give him advice was Colbert, because he'd been there forever. And Colbert says, if you want to be successful at this job, check your soul at the door.
Ooh.
Said they had to change clothes in cars for interviews and all kinds of stuff because they were in the field, and changing in a 7-Eleven. And one of the ladies, she was nursing during the job, so she had to go in a van with all the production folks, and she had to put a sheet over herself and get the milk, and just like, don't look at me, I'm busy. And so but
I like that we live in a world where that is even possible.
Absolutely. She's like, I'm just gonna sit in the van, I'm gonna figure this out, leave me be, and then we're gonna do this awesome job.
Yep.
So yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to say that we're running out of stuff to talk about, but I need some water. I'm gonna pause real quick because we had coffee, we had espresso, and it's getting a little dry. So give me just a second. Don't laugh at me. You're just wasting tape. I hope you gargle on that water.
I'm not.
I do.
You know, it's funny. I took the comment you just said, wasting real. I took that in my head. I spelled it REAL, which kind of works.
It works in
Don't
both
waste
ways.
your real.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just glad we don't have to have. I did say you're wasting tape. You're wasting tape. You're telling me stuff I want to hear on the radio or the podcast. See, I just screwed up. My brain is trained, and I'm embarrassed.
It's
I wish
okay.
that it
You're
wasn't.
gonna get over it.
So
it's good.
I hope so. I was gonna say, have you seen the big one? I got the big iPhone.
No, that's huge.
That's what she said. You can hold it in your hand.
You waited until I
did.
said that.
I did. That's the reason why I bought it.
So that people would say that.
That's it.
So you could make a Michael Scott joke.
That's it. Yeah, Fiance hates it. She does.
Really nice.
I know. I enjoy it.
It's time for me. Yeah,
It feels good.
You know,
It feels,
my phone is.
feels good in your hand, doesn't it?
It does.
It just.
I'm still watching what I say now.
I know
It
it.
feels like a phone in my hand.
So you have had the opportunity to do some amazing things, and I'm not saying just plugs, but from writing your own blog, not knowing who's going to read it, to the experiences that you've had right now. Can you just discuss some of that?
Sure. I never saw any of it coming. I read my first blog 10 years ago. It was in a summer, during the summer, and it was from a teacher. And I started reading it, and I thought, this is really fascinating. She's telling stories that I relate to, and I know exactly what she's talking about. And instantly I thought, I can do that. And the next day I started a blog. And I started to tell a little mini story about friendship that I had with someone, and it got to the point where the comments on it were, I can't wait to read the next installment. And I thought, oh, people want to know this story.
Oh no.
So
Pandora's
storytelling-
box.
Yep. Storytelling opened up for me, and then I realized no one can tell my story better than I can. And no one can tell your story better than you can.
Yeah.
And you are the best narrator of your life.
Yes.
And there's a certain amount of being able to step back from your life to say, okay, this is what I learned here. This is what I learned there. And here's how I'm going to take those experiences and synthesize them.
Yes.
So that I can show someone else. So
Yes.
I started doing that, not realizing what would come of it. But here's the best thing about blogs, my favorite thing ever. I used to hate writing. And I'm an English teacher by trade.
Wow.
And I taught writing
Ouch.
in the classroom.
Maybe it's because you saw it from one light, and you're like, man, this
yeah. It was a very narrow light, and it was in the form of every paper I ever wrote was given back to me with all of my mistakes.
Wow.
And every blog I have ever written comes back with the content. What you said resonated with me. And maybe, by the way, you have a comma splice there. But whatever, like, it's what you are talking about. And, you get better with time, with doing that. I realize, yes, I do like commas, and maybe that doesn't belong there, but you start to be really careful about where you're putting those things. But you are more focused on the story. And I have stories that people were just like, I didn't know that about you. I was a single teenage mom. I didn't know that was a fascinating story. And here's why I didn't know. Because they didn't view the Kelly that I was at the time as synonymous with the Kelly who was 15 years old with an infant. And how the hell do you do that?
That's something that I wanted to get to as far as the outlook and the journey and the multiverse, because as you said, there are not many people that will look at a 14-year-old African-American woman with a child and say, oh, sweetie, your whole life is ahead of you, and you have all these goals and dreams, and you're going to be amazing. They probably just shut tons of doors on you.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're here giving the virtual finger by saying, by the way, not only did I do this and this and this, I mean, you're an educator, you're an administrator, you're a blogger, but when you walk into a room wearing a t-shirt and jeans, it doesn't say that on your face.
Right.
And it must be amazing to have that bird's eye view of everything that's going, because you must reminisce from time to time about, and that may be the reason why you're in education, because you see this person and you're like, you know what, it's not that bad. You're in a hole right now, but it's not that bad. Because you can personally say, I've been there, I've dug the ditch, I climbed out of it, and it's
there's
amazing.
a life for you. There's got to be something. I was told just the opposite of what you said a moment ago. I was told you really can't do anything now, and you have screwed it all up. And maybe you should just go and do hair. Maybe you should just join. Maybe you should just join a cosmetology program and be done in 18 months, and then you can just do hair. Like, why don't you do that? And I remember going to my own guidance dean at the time and saying, am I the first girl ever who got pregnant and still wanted to go to college? And she had never been asked that question before.
Oh
and
my
she
God.
was like, no. so what is it you want to do? I said, I want to go to college. I want you to help me figure out how to do that.
Do your job, lady. I want you to do your job.
Right. And don't judge me.
Right, yeah.
As a matter of fact, I left my own guidance team and went to a different one that I wasn't assigned to at high school because mine wasn't helping me. So I went to the other one and asked her that question. And she said, okay, there's married student housing that you could live in. I said, great, where can I do this at? So I went to Eastern Illinois University. I lived in this teeny tiny apartment, and at the time, by that time, Mallory, my daughter, was 3 years old. So I took a 3-year-old to college.
That is awesome.
And realized once I got there that I wasn't the only girl who had been raising a child.
See,
I met all these other single moms, and I was like, hey, how can we support each other? Here's what I didn't know what I was doing. I was finding my tribe.
Yes.
And as it was happening, I was thinking to myself, how am I going to make this work, and how is she also going to make this work? Here's the thing. I'm not in competition with these other mothers. I wanted us all to get there together. I wanted us all to make it somehow. So we started doing things like we had potlucks. Let's stretch
awesome.
our food dollars.
Absolutely.
And then let's, how about you take Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes. I take Tuesday, Thursday classes. And then you watch my kid and I watch your kid on those days.
And you did this at 18?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were building little empires at 18.
I didn't know
little
that's
entrepreneur.
What I was doing.
Little like,
you know what? You know what I thought I was doing? I thought I was surviving. When you're in survival mode, you do what you got to do.
I've been working on a joke for quite some time, and it's not finished yet. I like to think myself a little student of comedy, and you see all the time action and adventure, hobbies and sports, and I just got to the point where I can follow a sports team. And people ask me all the time, oh, I didn't know that you loved that team, or I didn't know you loved to do that. And it's like, no, I've always loved to have hobbies, but when you're poor, your hobby is surviving.
Right.
I mean, your hobby is you find out how to make this budget stretch and get this far. And
how do I make this sandwich taste like a Big Mac? Because it's not. Oh,
God, it's a wishing sandwich. And I'm not saying that I grew up in Ethiopia, and I'm not saying that I grew up with a silver spoon, but I definitely can relate. And
to survival.
Yeah. And right now, my biggest accomplishment, I think, is in that realm is perspective. You can't lose perspective, because the minute you do that, then all of a sudden you get the problems that we were talking about before of, my internet connection went out, or, my day's over because, my shoes have scuffs on them or something. But please, let's go back to you about the Eastern and the potlucks and I mean, I didn't...
other women, honestly, it was how to be a woman. And being in that survival mode meant that you really couldn't have that bird's eye view. Like I don't even really today look back at that time and think of it as a victory. It was the hardest time of my life, but it was also the best time of my life, because you make really good decisions when you're that poor, and when you have to decide if you're going to pay the light bill or pay a phone bill. And you have to make some trade-offs, and you have to say, here's what's actually important. Let's get down to bare bones. And you get smart about it too. Like you learn how to use bread lines. You learn how to switch your bills up.
Absolutely.
I'm accidentally going to send my phone bill to the light company, and that's going to buy me some time. And then I'm going to play stupid. And when they call, I'm going to say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm just a single mom. It's just so hard. Would you send that back to me, and I will send you another check. And it's going to be like a week late. Is that okay?" And then I realized that here's a trick. Here's a great trick. Being vulnerable, telling people, look, my life is in the shitter right now, and nothing is easy. How can you help me out? And you would be surprised at the number of people in businesses who would say, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize.
But it's all about your approach. You, from what I understand, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were never, you owe me this.
Oh, never.
You owe me that.
No.
You were like, you know what? Just let me put you in my shoes just for a day. This is what I'm dealing with. I'm gonna be on time. I'm gonna be honest with all my stuff.
Yeah, but I'm doing the best I can.
Yes, all I have is my word. Not, you know what? Since I don't get this, I get that. I'm going to a store. I broke this item. You need to replace it and give me a gift card. Unfortunately, that's the world that we live in right now. But you were never like that, and I would like to think that it had so much to do with your success.
I hope so, because I think that's where most successful people come from. At least the ones who are successful that I admire. They are not the you owe me people of the world. They are the, I can't believe I'm so lucky to have this, and I can't believe that somebody enjoys this art that I'm making,
Yes.
or this thing that I'm doing, or this cause that I'm backing, or these women that I'm helping. I can't believe that this is so important. But I definitely come from a place of humility, and boy, I'm just screwing it all up. I'm just really, it's really a screwball here. So I can't tell you the number of times I've apologized to my children. I did it to my son today. I got upset with him and yelled at him, and I came back in the house and said, I am so sorry. That was real bad parenting on my part, and I'm going to do better. And I think that my secret weapon of being a mom is being able to say, I'm sorry, I didn't know any better, but when I know better, I'm going to do better. And I don't think you can get any more noble as a human being than to say that same thing and have that be your outlook. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't know better, but now that I do, can you help? I'm going to be better. And if I'm not, I really need you to go ahead and call me on it.
Yeah.
Once you have that, I have those. I've got that tribe. And I don't hate to say it, I love to say it. They're all women. They're all women in my life who are strong women who I've said, I need you around because I need the way you
call the bullshit.
Yep. I need you to call me on it.
Yeah.
But I like the way you look at the world.
Yeah.
And I want to look at the world that same exact way.
You know, it goes back to the audience, but the inclusion. Because in my personal life, no matter what I'm doing, I notice the core people that are around me, and they're going to be there today, they're going to be there tomorrow, whether
but what are their qualities? What do they have in common? Those people that you're talking about.
They're lifelong friends. They are a couple family members. Just they appreciate me for what I do, not for what I've done. They support me in every avenue that they can, but when I do mess up, they'll be the first to call me on it, as you're saying, like, you know what? Like, you made a bad decision. It was really dumb. I'm like, you know what? You're right. We figure out how to not do it. We figure out how to not do it twice.
Right.
Let's not do that
I hate
again.
to get all Jerry Maguire on you,
No.
but it's the whole, like, I love you for the man that I think you can be. And seriously, I really hate to quote that particular movie.
It's fine.
But I think that that's why we like the people that we have in our lives. They love me for who they know I've got the potential to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only thing that makes people successful or feel like they're successful in doing something important in life. And I think you have to look at yourself every day and say, at least this is how I get through the day. Tomorrow I'm going to be a better version of myself than I was today.
Yes.
I'm not in competition with anybody else.
No, not
nobody
at all.
Nobody else is doing my life the way I'm doing my life.
Right.
But tomorrow I'm going to be a better version. And today I really screwed up. And tomorrow I'm going to be better.
I used to have a tendency to just burn the city to the ground and then try and rebuild it one day at a time afterwards. And then I had another phase where I wanted to do good things just randomly. And then I was like, you know what? I was like, I actually need to be good rather than do good. It's a life's work.
It's extrinsic versus intrinsic.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to do something good because you need the outside things that come with it? Or do you want to do something good because it really feels good inside? I mean, think about the number of things that people do and never tell another soul.
Yep.
Like, you would never know the number of teachers that I come in contact with who do things for kids on a regular basis that make me want to weep because of how selfless they are.
Yeah.
I had a teacher who 3 years ago, she knew this kid, he always melted down on Fridays.
Yes.
Okay? Friday meltdown, we knew it was coming. We finally figured out the pattern.
Yes.
And here's why. Because over the weekends, there was no food in the house.
Oh, God.
And because nobody paid attention to him. And so she would go out, this teacher, I didn't know she did it until I caught her, doing this on a Friday afternoon. Friday morning, she's bringing some groceries in and she's putting them in the refrigerator. And everybody, all the other teachers, like, dude, where's all our space for our lunch?
Yeah.
She was buying food and sandwiches and things for him to have over the weekend. And on Friday afternoon, she packed his backpack with all that food. She just put it in there, zipped it up, and said, hey, go have a really good weekend.
Oh my God.
I only know this about her because I saw her do it.
Wow.
She wasn't asking for anybody. She didn't say, can anybody else put in on this? This is a teacher on a teacher's salary.
And that was the point I was going to make, is that you've got the CEO of Apple that makes $8 billion, and he walks around and says, build this product, make it faster, stronger. And then you've got teachers that are molding minds, and they are making a tenth of that.
Right.
I mean,
and nobody has a more important job in this world than a teacher.
Oh my God.
Nobody. And here's where we are with education. We are en loco parentis. We are in the place of the parents.
Yeah.
And we don't always want to be.
Right.
But think about this. 20, 30 years ago, psychologists and social workers and parent educators, these were not things that were in schools. They were in our community. And here's what I always say. When a problem becomes too big for a community, we give it to a school. You guys fix it. Kids aren't eating. You fix it. Kids need some help with mental health issues. You fix it. Kids need some social skills. You fix it. When we were just responsible for educating kids, the community was taking care of it. And educators are at this point where we're saying, we can't do it all by ourselves. I don't even want to talk about the achievement gap that we have in schools. And again, with the air quotes, we don't have an achievement gap, okay? We have a lot of other different things. It's not.
Put a pin in it. We can address it the next time.
We can absolutely do that. But what we have is an accessibility gap. But that accessibility can't happen unless the entire community gets in on that. I can't be mad at this mother for not, or this father for not preparing their child for school when they're working at a low-paying job that's making minimum wage, which is just ridiculous, the minimum wage. And obviously they're taking jobs that 20 years ago, teenagers were working fast food joints. You got parents working fast food joints, or you got parents working third shift. And so we've got a community problem. What's happening in education is a community problem that we're expecting schools to fix.
I have a question. I'd like to switch gears, but stay in the education realm.
Sure.
Do you think at this point that the current education system, with one child learning the same across the board, state mandated basics, is working? Or do you feel that we should adopt a different education system, meaning if there's a kid that's great at a skill, an art, a craft, maybe gear them towards that skill rather than making them learn things that they're not going to need for the rest of their lives? I mean, you're going to pound in information to them, forgive me for saying it, but to pass a state test so your numbers are good. But that kid doesn't know anything about the subject he just tested. He just knows that A, B, C, D, and E are the answers to the test. And in retrospect, I mean, I haven't been under the formal education system that long, but I feel that if I were put in a different, I mean, I hate to say coulda, woulda, shoulda, but if I were put in a different situation saying, hey, if you really care about arts or you're really good with your hands as a mechanic, we're going to send you straight to a tech school when you're 14 years old.
We're taking that out of schools.
I understand, and that's what blows my mind. It's like we want you to sit in this calculus class that you have to pass to get a piece of paper that says that we can get an interview with you, but you might not need the calculus or the interview to rebuild the guy's car.
Right. I think it comes down to a difference between teaching students how to learn and teaching students how to think. And what we've done is take out all the arts. We've taken out shop. We've taken out mechanics. We've outsourced it to schools. Like we have a school here that we've outsourced it to, Capital Area Career Center. And then we act like it's a bad thing when kids go there, when it's actually not. They're learning a trade. Okay, this is a trade school.
It's such
we act like that's a lower.
It's a
class
connotation.
Of
kids. It's I only go half the day because I go to CACC. Oh, he's not ready for college. He's going to make more money than you at 19 because he's got a full-time job.
They are going to live in this community. They're going to live in our neighborhood. And guess what? I need someone who knows how to fix a car.
Absolutely.
I need someone who knows how to be a plumber. I need an electrician.
HVAC.
And guess what? Those particular jobs have higher levels of vocabulary than some professional jobs that you get when you're out of college. So we are looking at this completely backwards.
I agree.
And we are using classism as a way to say, but everybody needs to go to college. When that's not the truth. Everybody doesn't need to go to college. Everybody needs a skill. You know what? Here's what postgraduate means to me. And postgraduate meaning high school, 12th grade. Postgraduate means we all have the same goal. You know what that goal is? Everybody gets a job. And everybody gets a job in a different way. Some will go to college for it. Some will go to trade school. Some will go into the military. Some will get an apprenticeship. Some will come up with some wonderful thing because they're a new entrepreneur that the world didn't know that we needed and that we currently have, but we currently don't have. But we're not giving kids. We're not putting them into those lanes. Like we're saying, everybody get into one lane. Let's all do the same thing. And honestly, that's not just schools. The fault of schools, that's the fault of communities and people who have these expectations that college will fix everything, and it will not.
I agree.
And that's really hard for me to say as an educator because 10 years ago I would not have said that.
But you have that perspective now.
Yeah.
You know,
I backed away from it.
New York Times just ran a story about the Google employees, about how they don't, half of them, it doesn't matter what you made in your ACTs, half of them didn't go to college.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't matter what we made on our ACTs, because I have a master's degree and I'm embarrassed to tell you what I got on my ACT. So I hope that's not the judge, because quite frankly, that did not sum me up. Like that did not determine who I became as a person.
I think from a personal standpoint, I paid attention to it so much that got to get that piece of paper if you're nothing unless you have that piece of paper.
Right.
And I didn't see it from a different angle, because it was growing up, okay, if you get minimum wage, you can support yourself. 9 to 5, you can support a family. And we're living in an age where people are held hostage by minimum wage.
Right.
And it's just,
that's because
it's
we're
disgusting.
held hostage by ACT and SAT test scores. That's why. That's where we start it. We start that conversation and act like that's all there is to it. And that's not. In Illinois, we use the ACT as our determining test to see how high schools are doing. That's one of the tests. How'd your kids do on the PSAE? How'd they do on the ACT? Now we're doing the PARC. We use these. Here's the thing. The current system is broken. The current educational system is broken. We have systemic problems in education for which we need systemic solutions, and we're not doing that. We're putting some Band-Aids on some broken arms here, and we're not going to get anywhere.
Wow.
We got a lot of work to do. But we have a lot of work to do as a community, and what I would love to see us do is open up this conversation as a community problem, instead of saying, schools, you fix it. You live by what the federal government says you should do with the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which is everyone knows as No Child Left Behind.
Yes.
And this was the year. 2014 was the magic year for No Child Left Behind. It was the year that we were all supposed to be at 100%.
Oh God.
Everyone is testing really well, and now we're changing the test.
Oh,
and we're not taking the ISAT anymore. We're going to take the PARC test, because that's where the federal dollars are coming from.
Yeah, but how many kids are getting passed on the test because it's the quarterback, because it's the linebacker, because it's the basketball player?
That's a whole other can of worms.
It is.
But that goes to our values, what we think is important.
Yeah.
And we just turn the other cheek when it comes. We turn a blind eye to that. Like, let's not pay attention to that.
Well, it's because you got boosters. I found that out. You got boosters, and they put the butts in the seats. So, you're not going to get that same money for the arts, because they're going to have a concert where the parents go, and the parents aren't going to drop $1,000 on, T-shirts for the team and everything else.
Right.
So, you know what? There is no good point to end. So let's just end now, and we'll have another one.
We fixed the whole world, so we're good.
Yes, we did in an hour. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I don't shake hands. We got to hug. Come on.
Okay.
That's
we're
awesome.
Hugging. I wish they could see this.
That's fine. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So you spent the whole day binging on Netflix. No worries. We're not judging nobody. But now that you're all caught up on your programs and your stories, why not check out our latest episode of the Lincoln's Legends podcast? Chances are you hear from somebody that you know about something awesome that's happening in Springfield right now. lincolnslegendspodcast.com. Don't be late to the party.